It says starting.
Hello, this is Margaret Fetty from the University of Sewing at the Tailor Fit, and welcome to the University of Sewing. We're a Bernina dealer, and for those of you who've not watched any of our videos before, right now you're seeing the inside of my shop. We have a lot of focus on clothing in our shop, but we also have a lot to do with quilting. And where we have a lot to do with quilting has to do with the big quilting machines. And there are several different versions of Q series machines that Bernina sells, and we're going to talk about some of those today because today is Qtalk, and we are going to have our resident expert, Heather Alexandra. Heather is a long-arm quilter. She does quilts for our customers. We don't do them in shop, but she does them at her home because she's got a Q series machine and she's got a Qmatic. And we're going to let her talk about that a little bit when she gets here. Or I should say when we get to her. So I want to make sure that everyone knows right now we are having an amazing sale. It's the Dream It, Sew It Studio happening. And we have some wonderful sewing machines with some wonderful gifts. And so for example, right now, if you buy a 770, we have got a deal where you can go ahead and get a choice of an embroidery module or our 460 serger, which is a really easy serger to thread. But if you think that's too hard to thread, we can put you into an even easier serger. We've got air threading sergers here. So if you are interested in a serger right now and you want to come and have a demo, we are giving you a $10 coupon for fabric. So if you want to do that, you can do that. So come on in, and the next thing I want to show you is our new baby. This is the Q16. What the 16 refers to is the space between your needle and the back of the machine. It has 16 inches to be able to put your quilt in there, which is a very nice size. This is a foldable table. Now, a lot of times people think foldable tables are flimsy. Not this one. It's 85 pounds. So I can guarantee you nothing flimsy about this baby. This beautiful machine is set up and ready to go. You can have it up and running in your house almost immediately. This right now is on sale for the same sale I was telling you about, and it is only $7,499. It is the lowest price it will ever be, and it's only going on during this sale, so don't miss out. Come in and see how this is demoed. You will love it. It's a wonderful machine. But we want to make sure that you, oh, see that? Guess what that is? That is the air threading 850. So that machine is the easiest threading machine I've ever come across as far as a serger overlocker goes. You do not have to thread it in any special order, and you don't have to try to get in there and thread crazy loopers and stuff. It's just so easy. You will love it. Today, as we do the first Friday of every month on our Facebook Live, we have Heather Alexander here. And Heather is, we call her our resident expert because she's the person who, if you buy a long arm frame and you buy the Qmatic, she's who trains you on it. And so we have got this nice setup here today, and Heather's got a quilt on here, and she's going to actually show you what the Qmatic can do and how come you really need one of these.
That's right, you do. Thank you.
So this is Heather.
Hello.
And we are super, super happy to have her. Can you tell us a little bit about your business and what you do and why people need to talk to you about these?
Thank you. Yes, my business, I call it Handmade, and it's Longarm Quilting. And so when you finish your quilt top, you want to have a perfect finish and to enhance your quilting. And so I can offer the quilting designs that will finish up your quilt. You can bring me your quilt top, your batting, and your backing, and you can drop it off here at the shop, and they will deliver it to me, and I will take care of helping you pick all the designs and anything you need to finish your quilt. It's a great way to ensure that you get a perfect finish. The Q24 always provides wonderful stitches and a perfect design on every quilt top. And it's kind of fun because you can pick over thousands of different designs to help fix and finish your quilt, and some of them can be kind of special and unique designs that will enhance all of your quilt tops. So today I am going to continue on with my series. Last time I was here, I loaded the quilt onto the frame. I showed you how to put the backing and the batting and also the top onto it. And I have it all ready to go. And I'm going to show you how we can add the quilting right across the top of your quilt to help get a perfect finish. The great thing about doing it on the frame is you're not going to have puckers and folds in the backing of your fabric. The frame will roll your quilt through and it's going to get a nice flat finish every time, which is super great when you're wanting to quilt and get a perfect professional look to it. So today I'm going to start over here. My quilt is all set up like I said. Because I'm going to use the Qtalk, I want to make sure that I have my belts locked. So I'm going to make sure this one is locked, and then there's one back there that I almost always keep locked all the time. And once I know that those are locked, I'm ready to do my Qtalk. If I was going to free motion or do my own type of quilting, I keep those unlocked and it keeps the machine moving freely on its own. But when it's time for the computer, I want to make sure that I keep both of my belts locked. And so I'm always going to start in the upper left-hand corner of my quilt. So that's why my machine is put all the way back there. And I'm going to do what I call is setting my safe zone. So once that is ready, I'm going to walk over to my computer. And the great thing about the whole Qtalk system, it's a nice little touch screen, so it's really easy to use. Hopefully, here it comes. So I'm going to open my Qtalk software. And what it's going to do first is it's going to ask me to create my safe area. And what the safe area on the quilt is, it's going to be the whole area that is exposed here on the frame that I can quilt out my quilt design before I have to advance the quilt. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to set the left side, and I press the set button, and then I'm going to take my machine over to the bottom right hand side, and I'm going to set the lower half. And I'm going to go just right outside of my quilt edge right there, because when I do an edge-to-edge design, I want the design to run off both sides of my quilt, just a little bit off the edges, because that'll give you a nice continuous design across the quilt top. And I will press set. So now over here on the computer, you're going to see a red box, and that is my safe zone. So this is the area on my quilt that I can actually do the quilting. But this bigger box, that's actually my quilt top, but that's too big. It doesn't fit my safe zone. So what I have to do next is set my quilt size. So I'm going to do the width and the height. So I just walk over. I have my trusty tape measure always on the side, and I'm going to measure across the width of my quilt top. And this is measuring just about 42 inches. So I will walk over, and I'm going to put in 42. And then my quilt length, I'm going to want to make my quilt length about 10 to 15 inches longer than my actual quilt length. Because as my design stitches out, sometimes the quilt top will flatten more, and so it might actually end up being longer than the actual quilt top. And so if I add 10 to 15 extra inches, it'll ensure that my whole design will cover my entire quilt top. So I'm going to put 75 in there, and I should be pretty good to go. Then I press the green check, and as you can see, my quilt top is now less than my safe zone. So I have some extra edges here so that my design can run right off of the side. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick my design, and I'm going to go to my design library right in my Qtalk, and as you can see, I have all different kinds of designs that pop up in here. I have pantographs, which are the edge to edge. I've got blocks, I've got borders, I've got some triangle designs, hexagons for some specific blocks. The Qtalk comes with over 100 designs that you can use on your quilts. The other really cool thing is there's a lot of websites out there that you can order the pantographs off. That's a digital download of hundreds of thousands of different designs really that you can pick for your quilt top. So you're not limited with just the Qtalk. You can go onto these websites, you can order them. A lot of times they cost anywhere from $12 to $20. You can download them and then you can use them over and over and over again, which is super great because You find a design that you like and you want to do it on 5 or 6 different quilts, and it turns out fantastic. So today I picked the Swirl Paisley pantograph for my quilt. I love this design. The circles and curves are always wonderful on a quilt top. They give a nice movement and they give a really nice texture to your quilt. So I'm going to press close, and it has popped up right here in my design center. So I know that it is ready to go. So I'm going to double click on it, and it's going to pop up over here onto my quilt top. Now the really neat thing about the Qmatic is I can change the size of my design. I can make it bigger or smaller depending on if I want a tight quilting or if I want a looser quilting. If your design is smaller and you have a lot of stitching, your whole finished quilt is going to be a little bit firmer and tighter and give a different look. If you make your design bigger, your stitches are going to be farther, the design will be farther apart, and your quilt will be a little bit looser and fuller. So you kind of think about that when you're deciding which kind of design that you want. Some people love a really tight look on it. Sometimes those are good for wall hangings or table runners. Other people like the feel of the flow of the quilt and to have it maybe be a little more cuddly and not as stiff. So then you might want something with less lines or design and a little bit more open and bigger, and that will make your quilt a little bit more cuddly, I should say. So my design here, it's measuring out at 9.5 inches. You can see right there, it shows the size. That's the height, and the width is 7.19. So I can change this to whatever I want, and I can use this tool right here, and I can size it up or down. So just by dragging it, I can change the size of my design. I can make it really big, or I could go really small. Something I like to do when I do my quilts is I tend to lean a little bit denser because I love the quilting design. I want it to show. So I tend to go a little bit smaller. But I tried to make it probably, for this one, I'm going to do about 8 inches. If I can get it on there pretty close. It's a little bit harder with the finger. Because what will end up happening is I know I can get 2 rows, at least 2 rows in my design there, and I can stitch out 2 rows at a time. If my design was smaller, I might be able to stitch out 4 or 5 rows at a time, which is kind of nice. So I'm going to go with this size. I'm about 8.06. That looks good to me. The other thing that's really helpful in the Qmatic is all of these little boxes here, they measure 1 inch. So that can kind of give you a visual of how big a design is. So you can stick that little circle in there, and I can see that that's just a little bit smaller than 1 inch. So that can kind of help you visually when you're designing it for your quilt. So now I'm going to drag it over to the side, and you can see I'm going to make it go off the edge, and now I need to make my line go across the screen. So I'm going to press this plus button, and I'm going to get my design to fill the whole quilt top. It's going to go off both of the sides because that's what you want to do in an edge to edge, and you can see it's also going off the top. Once I have my line set up, next I need it to go down the length of my quilt. So I'm going to do a multiply here, and I'm going to press plus. And notice there's kind of a really big gap in the lines there. I don't like that gap. So I'm going to use these shrink buttons here, and I'm going to put it closer so that my design is going to look more cohesive and tight there. And I like that. If you want to get really technical, you can change these numbers and make them even smaller so you can get them even closer together. Some designs require that. This one is really pretty good. So now I'm going to keep adding lines as I move down the entire length of my quilt. You can see how I now have my quilt top completely covered from top to bottom, and it's running off the sides so that I know it will be covering my entire quilt. When I'm ready and I'm satisfied with that, I'm going to press the green check, and now I have my whole quilt top designed and how it's going to look. But I can't stitch it out yet because all my rows are connected, and I can only stitch in my safe zone. So I have to disconnect my rows. And now what I like to do when I stitch out is I'd like to stitch out 2 rows at a time, or 3. I can see that this row is going to fit in my safe zone, this row is going to fit, but you can see the bottom there on the red box, it's not going to fit. So I can't stitch that out because my machine can't go lower than that red box. So I'm going to be able to stitch out these 2 rows right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch from left to right, and then I want to go right to left to finish it. So I need to reverse sew this row. So now my machine's going to go this way, and then it's going to go back this way. And in order to make sure that it doesn't even stop, I'm going to connect my rows together, and I'm going to link them. And now my 2 rows will stitch this way and then back this way. It's kind of nice that it can do all of that. Now, if I tried to stitch it right now, I'm going to get an error message because I have designs outside my box. So I have to trim my designs before it is ready to stitch. So I come over here, my rows are highlighted. You always want them to be red because that's what you're working on. If they're not red, it's not going to do anything. So they're red. I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to now trim the 3 sides of my quilt so it will be ready to stitch. So I always do the horizontal first, and I'm going to get as close to the top as I can. And you can see how the top of the red now turns black. And what that means is all of that's going to be cut off. None of that will be stitched. So I'm okay with that. And now I need to do my 2 sides. So I'm going to do the vertical side, and I'm going to come over here. And I like to only stitch or cut off the sides that I'm working on, because sometimes when you roll the quilt forward, it'll shift and it'll turn, so you might have to trim a little farther out as you go down the quilt. If you do the entire quilt, it's all going to be gone, and if things shift and change, you might get your rows cut off, so that's not a good idea. So I'm going to do the vertical side, and I want to go from my quilt edge to my safe zone. I want to go somewhere in the middle, so it's going to run off my side, and it's going to be inside my safe zone. So you can see that turn black, so that's good. And now the last side is the right side, and this is the vertical, but it's invert. I have to invert it so I get the other side. And now I'm going to do that in the middle also, and I should be good to go. So now my 2 rows are all ready to be stitched out, and I'm ready to start. So I'm going to press the play button. It's going to ask me a couple of questions to make sure that I'm ready to go. It's going to say, there are queued designs outside the safe area, DQ and proceed. So what that means is there are these rows outside of there, and do I want to keep going so I can stitch out the 2 that are ready? And I'm going to say yes. And it's going to think for a minute. Now it's going to start, it's going to ask me if I want to go to the start point or the closest point on the design. Because I haven't done anything yet, I'm going to do the start point. And you can see the little circle right there, that is my start point right there. So I'm going to press start, and then I'm going to watch my machine here in just a minute. This screen right here is going to change as it's thinking and ready to go. Hopefully. All right, now it changes, and this is the magical part. It's going to move over on its own to that exact start point. And it is going to be ready to stitch out my design. All right, so it has reached its start point. When it gets over here, it's going to stop, and I'm going to bring my bobbin thread up to the top, and I do that every time so that I don't get any nests of thread down there or any problems. So I just do my needle down and up. I pull up my bobbin thread, and I'm going to hold on to the tails as it's going to start, just so that nothing will get sucked back under there. And I'm going to press the green button, and it is going to start stitching out exactly what is on the computer over there. And as you see it go, you can see that it is going to be the perfect design that was over there. You can also see it started right here on my batting, because I want my design to go right off of the edge. So it's going to start off the edge, and then it's going to go on to my quilt top. And then when I'm finished with my whole quilt, I will just trim off all the extra sides, and I'll have a nice clean line there, and my design will be continuous all the way across my quilt top. fantastic part about the Qmatic is once it starts, you can kind of walk away from it for a little while, and it's just going to do its thing. It's going to go do the whole design across, it's going to go all the way down, and then it's going to go all the way back, and it will be finished. And if you watch it over on the screen, if you want to come over here, you can see the little plus moving on the exact part of the design. That's your needle moving right there, and it is exactly what is happening on the quilt top right now. It's pretty awesome how perfectly it goes. This is a fantastic design too. It turns out beautiful. This is one of my favorites. Yep. And the circles and the loops tend to go a lot faster than squares or more geometric things. Some of them take longer than others. If you do a smaller design, it's going to take you quite a few more hours than a bigger design. So sometimes you think about that if you want, if you're in a hurry, you want to do something circular and loopy and big. But the stitches turn out perfect every time. It's fantastic.
This is a beautiful, beautiful design, and this quilt's going to be so pretty when it's done.
It is.
So, Heather, I was noticing that the one thing that was really interesting is there's a lot of the same features on our Q24 that are on our sewing machine.
Yes.
It's got a home button, it's got speed control, it's got, now you can do free motion on this also.
Yep.
And you can do, so like the whole idea, I guess, with the sit-down version is it's more of a free motion or ruler work. Why don't we step away from the machine because it's probably being noisy for our, it's probably being noisy for our listeners. But one of the things that like with this machine, this is more for free motion and for ruler work. It doesn't do this programming like the Qmatic has on the frame. You can, that's the big jump you make when you go from this version to that, is that you can actually program the machine.
Yes.
And we walked away and
Yes.
it's still quilting.
Yes, and it will keep going until it ends that second row. So you can walk away, and what I do, my sewing machine is right next to my big machine, so I can be working on my piecing and working on my own quilt tops as my quilting machine is going. And then I just have to go back and advance it and switch it for the next section of rows.
So is it really hard to fix, say a thread breaks?
No.
Is that really hard to fix?
Nope, thread breaks are easy. When a thread breaks, the machine is going to stop. You're going to
Because
get
it
in there.
knows that the
It
thread
knows.
broke.
Yep. It will not. It might go a little ways, and then once the top thread breaks, it's going to stop. A lot of times when your bobbin runs out, it might keep trying to stitch, but once that top thread breaks, the machine is going to completely stop. You just have to re-thread everything, tie off your ends, and then it's super easy to get it started exactly where you left off.
That is really amazing when you think about it. I mean, I think that, you know, I've seen some other long arm machines and they don't seem as natural to go to the screen and be up. In fact, I'm not sure I've seen a screen on some of them. I've seen some where it looks like the only thing you can do maybe is free motion or pantograph.
Mm-hmm.
But this one does free motion, pantograph, or you can do the computer depending on how you want to set up the system.
Exactly.
And so Bernina makes it where we can sell it without the Qmatic if you just want to do free motion and ruler work. And you can do ruler work on
that. Yep.
On the frame too.
Yes.
Can't
You do not need the computer to do ruler work. You can do that all separately also.
Well, I saw that there's a, well actually, we've had customers who wanted it, and they've had this little platform that you put underneath, and then you can do the roller work using that platform. And so, yes, it is a little bit of an extra expense, but I didn't think it was that bad.
Nope.
So,
That one's
have
not
you
bad.
ever done ruler
I
work
have
on
done
it?
some quilts with ruler work, and it's actually really pretty simple. It's kind of amazing. The learning curve is really pretty fast. Once you do a little bit of it, it just gets easier and easier and easier. And the little platform they give you, it's real nice. It gives you a surface to work under. Your quilt will be on top and the surface is under, so you can rest your ruler on it very comfortably, and it's real easy to move the machine around with it.
And obviously on this one, it's already got the surface there. And you know, I don't know if you've seen it, but this also, if you want to, you can get the Q16 with a lift table. So that if you wanted to stand and do it, or if you want to sit. Now this table right here has 3 different adjustments. You can go down to 28 inches, 30 inches, or 32. As short as I am, I could probably stand and do it right here. But I like that idea that you can have a lift table that does that. So we're going to have you back in another month.
Yep.
But you're here until noon today, right?
Yep. I'm here until noon, so if you have quilting questions or if you have a quilt that you need me to help you finish, I'm here to help with that. You can come on by and do that, no problem.
That's really fun. So Heather will be here until noon today. Remember, this is the University of Sewing. Our website is universityofsewing.com. Our email is info@universityofsewing.com. And just for those of you you probably saw this at the beginning and I forgot to mention it, we want to make sure that you know that we know Halloween is coming. So the big bowl of candy will be here for the rest of the month. So everybody who comes in, we'd like to invite you to get your own piece of candy. And as I put in the information online, but I'm also going to tell you again, if you come in and you want a demo on the Q16, or you want a demo on any of our sergers, or any of our other sewing machines, you can ask for that demo and we will give you a $10 gift certificate for fabric in the shop. So everybody, thank you for joining us again on Facebook Live. We've had a lot of fun. Heather, thank you for joining us. We've really appreciated it. And we have somebody that we need to thank also, and that would be Denise. She's our camera person today. Dave wasn't able to be here today. So we had a new camera person today, and so we're very grateful for Denise stepping up to this. Denise, right before we hang up, can we go ahead and get a picture, show the folks at home how much has been done on this quilt before we sign off today? It's really something else. And how that ended up there, but we will get that off of there. So, but look at this, how much it's done without us doing a thing. It's just been, I mean, that's amazing. And we're just standing here. I love it.
Yeah.
So I just love it. Well, everyone, have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us at the University of Sewing at Facebook Live, and we'll see you next week on Friday at 9:30 in the morning. Have a great day.